But I feel like all throughout the movie, everyone who comes in contact with him should first vomit and then second. Like, I think that's how we would actually... at the end of this, I'll pose again to you. What would actually happen if this happened?
By far, the most uncanny, like uncomfortable part of the way that this duck looks is its poofy butt. It looks like a baby in a diaper.
Yeah.
It lose that, and then I'm more in it. Just when he turns around, he's got a big poofy ass. I can't take him seriously, and
He needs to look less human.
Or more duck.
Hello, everybody. This is the Load Bearing Beams podcast, and I'm Matt Stokes.
What a sleazoid. I'm Lacey Roth.
With Sleazoid back at you gross piece of shit.
Cowabunga, dude. Get a life. Yeah, right.
Light a stogie. Life is short. Skate a board. Tag some public property with spray paint.
I don't feel like any of those are in the movie. I was trying to say.
I thought we were just naming sort of 80s badassery.
Oh, okay, sure. If that, mind the gap. who's
more of an old
British
Navy man.
now? Okay, fine. Anyway, today, what are we talking? Are we talking some listener's choice?
Well, you know, this is a movie podcast, and the movie we're talking today is Howard the Duck. Now, if you only listen to podcasts about Howard the Duck, consider giving other episodes of our podcast a chance, because me and Lacey, who are a married couple, have fun making fun of the movies, even if we love them,
even if we love
of
them.
each other.
Even if we love each other.
Yeah, and sometimes we get a little rowdy, but it's all in the name of good fun.
A lot of downstairs humor. But this time, it is not a load-bearing beam of mine or Matt's. This is from Smash Trivia John, friend of the cast, TikTok mutual, who won the lotto. Boy, did he, to get his movie to be the one we review this week. It's happening, John. It's happening.
Yeah, everybody sent in their ideas, and we put them on a wheel and spun the wheel, and John was the winner, and he sent us this little video to explain why he forced us to watch Howard the Duck. Let's hear from John.
Forced.
Duck tits. Ooh. Just imagine the DuckTales theme song in the background for that. Alright, here's why I love Howard the Duck. First off, the humor. I love the humor in this film. Next, I think the story's great. And then, next thing, it might sound a little bit weird, but I love Howard and Beverly's relationship in the film. I think it works really well, and I love the music in this from our Beverly's band. That's everything. So this is your friend Smash Trivia John from the Gamma Analysis Podcast, aka Smash Tits.
He said duck tits.
The duck tits are certainly a thing in the movie.
They are quick.
They're prominent.
They're nipple-licious. I wish I found a different suffix.
Yeah, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Smash Trivia John. Everybody go give him a follow. And we liked doing this. It was fun to get everybody's suggestions and just kind of think, ooh, I'd like to cover that. Oh, I don't want to cover that. And I think we'll probably do it again maybe in the fall, because we have basically our schedule planned out for the podcast through the summer.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about maybe we put some parameters on it, because I'd really like to get, since you and I are in our late 30s, and we talk about movies that mean a lot to us from growing up, it means we often talk about 80s, 90s movies, sometimes early 2000s. And I'd love to get like a next generation, something like from the 2010s. So I'd love to hear, especially from younger people, what's a movie that's like really important to you if you're 10, 15 years younger than us?
It's really not our demographic, but we can see.
I just want to see.
I don't know if we get any answers at all. They're busy. But we'll see.
These people that we talk to sometimes will say like, oh no, I was a little baby in 2004.
They say that, but I don't believe them, and we don't card. So, all right, we'll give it some params.
Okay. And another thing right at the top, we are doing a fantasy box office game we're going to be playing all summer. The complete details are on our TikTok and our Twitter at LoadBearingPod. So check it out there. And if you're interested in joining, we only have 8 slots available. We're going to just put everybody who applies into a wheel and spin the wheel.
Everything's a lot
to
of
get
here.
our 8 people. But email me, Matt@loadbearingbeams.com if you're interested in joining. And again, we have more information on our TikTok and our Twitter.
Yes.
So let's get into the meat of the episode by first talking about I don't know what, neither of us had seen the movie before.
Right.
What did you know, if anything, about the movie?
But that it is important to people, that it's like known, it's so bad it's good, or like it's supposed to, the bad parts are supposed to be bad and you're supposed to like indulge yourself with the story of it all. I don't know. Or like I don't know. My sense was like, it's a silly movie, but people care about it. And it sounded like a perfect load-bearing beam type of a situation. Also was a blind spot for me. Never graced my eyes until it did yesterday.
And the extent of my knowledge was just like, this is one of those movies that people point to as one of the bad movies. It's often in lists of the worst movies ever. But I think that unlike something like Plan 9 from Outer Space or The Room, this is like done at a huge budget by A-list talent for a major studio with a huge marketing budget. And I think a lot of the initial backlash was in response to that.
Okay.
Especially because the movie was presented as George Lucas's follow-up to Star Wars.
That is wild.
Which it was not, but that was just
wild.
The marketing.
But I mean, it's like, what? Because it has to do with outer space. It's perfect.
It's just, and I'll get into it in the history of the production of the movie. I mean, yes, it's the wise thing to do when you're trying to market your movie, is George Lucas is attached as a producer. So obviously we're going to put him front and center in the marketing, and saying it's a George Lucas production means something to people.
And that's the problem. Is like, you're really telegramming, this is going to be a thing you can expect. It's not.
It's like, yeah, what do I know? Okay, so it's the Star Wars movies and the Indiana Jones movies. I'm in for a good time. A good fun adventure. Yeah.
I mean, okay.
We did our predictions ahead of time before we watched the movie. We watched the movie last night. Now we're recording this. This is what Lacey thought before she watched the movie.
What can I say about Howard the Duck? Well, the charmed life I've lived, nothing. So far, I have nothing to say because I have not witnessed this spectacle. But tonight, I am being forced to by a very lovely TikTok mutual who I will gladly do this for, but I can say I am not looking forward to it. I suspect there will be uncomfortable human-duck relations and some bad jokes and shit that's not funny anymore. But maybe I'll love it. Or maybe I'll love to hate it.
I'm smiling so pleasantly at my own self. She's like, oh, what a nice girl.
So, what'd you think?
I don't know. I kind of covered all the bases in that thing. Maybe I'll hate it. Maybe I'll love it. Maybe I'll love to hate it. Like, I mean,
yeah, it was very wishy-washy.
It's a bit wishy-washy. Yeah. What do you mean? You're asking me to show my cards right now?
Show your cards.
I think I've clearly tried to keep them close to the vest. That's kind of my charm. Okay, yeah.
Lacey was fucking miserable watching this movie.
I was not miserable. Like I unexpectedly did find the Beverly and Howard relationship charming, and it's probably my favorite part. But it's when the movie decides to become a second and a third movie that it loses me. It's just, okay, can I come back to the witty banter and antics and sweetness of the duck and the human woman, and less of this demon from outer space with eye lasers and amazing makeup. Yeah,
I liked the Beverly and Howard relationship in theory. On paper, I think Lea Thompson is in general a very appealing presence, and there's some sweetness. They don't do very much with it, and then once it becomes once it becomes Ghostbusters, and I hate, this is a cursed sentence to say, once Jeffrey Jones shows up, things pick up a little bit.
Yeah.
Then the movie has a little bit of juice, even though I know, like, then it becomes just sort of a standard special effects action comedy. But at least it's moving, at least some stuff's happening.
It just feels like it has nothing to do with the characters they've been building up till that point. They just completely lose. I don't know. It takes the team apart. I like the team together.
Yeah, I hate teams getting split up. You split the teams in the second movie.
Right.
And they thought there would be dozens of Howard the Duck movies, so you can do that in the next movie.
Yeah, no.
But learning about the production of the movie, I think there were so many cooks in the kitchen who wanted so many different things that the result is just a mess. And even before I knew that, I could tell watching the movie.
Well, that's what I just said. It felt like 3 movies.
Yeah.
So, yes, it did.
Here's my prediction.
Okay.
Hey folks, Matt the Human here to make my human prediction for the movie Howard the Duck. Now, as we all know, I'm a person who lives on the human world.
True.
Things have names like that reflect the human anatomy. Finger sandwiches, football, etc., etc. So I'm looking forward to this movie about a duck from the duck world who gets sent to Earth and becomes a detective. I know that's the premise of Duckman, and Howard the Duck is different, and I don't know anything about Howard the Duck. I know people think of it sometimes as one of the worst movies ever, which makes me automatically think, well, it's not going to be that bad.
Right.
Very curious about this movie. I think it has a lot of puppets and a lot of that very cozy 80s production design that I just miss so much. So I think I'll have a perfectly fun and good time with Howard the Duck.
I thought you were going to make my joke, which is that everyone's last name has something to do with their humanness, because that was every name you saw of a duck person in the opening had something to do with feathers and quack and fucking other examples.
Like you'd be Lacy Person America.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now, look, I wanted to like this movie. It has things that I like in theory.
Yeah.
None of it comes together. But I like the sort of 80s charm of it. I like I even wanted to like the puppet more.
You call him a puppet, not a furry suit?
Well, it's a cost. The mouth, the head is animatronic, operated remotely by puppeteers. But the body is a person in the body. Oof. And the costume. Yeah, I can totally see people who have seen it lots. When you start to see a movie over and over again, you just accept everything about the movie. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Of course, that's what happens in Howard the Duck. You
just keep waiting for your moments. You're lily padding, which is what I've coined, which is like something like with Hocus Pocus. It's just, there are great points in that movie, but it's surrounded by a lot of nothing. And I'm going to get some hate for that. But I can see how some things would be funny, especially to a kid. What really takes me out of it is I guess that the mouth is all and eyes are controlled by a puppeteer, because it's all ADR, right? Like, yeah. So he says not a lot in a row. Usually it's just one-liners, and he's rolling his eyes constantly, and everything's sarcastic, and it doesn't fit the tone a lot of the time. So the fact that it also doesn't fit with the mouth movements or feel like it's coming from the source, that's just like, I feel like I'm at, I would like pizza with this, because this feels like Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, it not only has the disembodied ADR, and the actor, the live action actors there are not responding to the actual voice. They're hearing like a guy off, who's 20 feet away who's like, Beverly, we need to go to the thing.
I said, smooth move, X-Lax.
You have that combined with a thing I'll get into. A horrible mistake they made was they did the puppetry before recording the voice. And so if the puppeteer isn't going to provide the voice himself, you need to basically work very closely with the voice actor and then model the puppet to fit the voice you've already recorded.
Would you say another misstep, something that kept taking me out of it? Like, I found him precious at points. I mean, it just looks like a little kid in a costume, and that was cute, which also made it hard for me with the sexual stuff. And I couldn't stop envisioning what a duck penis looks like. I can't figure it out. But the eyes looked so fleshy and like the wrong color, and they just look like little mouths instead of eyes. Like, I don't know. The eyes took me out of it. Eyes are supposed to be the most endearing part of something like that, it seems like. Or usually with really effective puppets, you could kind of trace it back to the eyes. And then there's been some like creature kids movies that are like B, C-list movies. And it's like, why didn't this work? Okay, there's a million reasons, but it's the eyes. I'll have to give you some examples. I have a couple in mind.
E.T.'s the ultimate example of it working. It's all the eyes.
And also Neverending Story. And with the turtle and with the... there's several good puppets in Neverending Story. And it's always the eyes. And I also have an animated movie that just fucks the eyes right up. And it's like, I can't love you. I can't love you, you weird pin-eyed thing.
What do you remember which one?
It's like Kung Fu Rabbit or something. It's a knockoff of Kung Fu Panda, but it has like A-list celebrity, or like it's got like real celebrities in it. But the rabbit is so fucked. Oh, it's actually Napoleon Dynamite who's voicing the rabbit.
Mm-hmm. John Heder.
Yeah, just look at the eyes. It's not okay.
I think there's also a weird issue with just eye lines. Like the actors are always looking down at Howard, who's only 3 feet tall, and it's just not comfortable for anyone.
But at least he was physically there, so the eye line is correct. It's just for an adult to deliver adult jokes to who seems like a child, except for when he's speaking. It's just, yeah. I'm looking forward to the thoughts on the overly sexual. Like why those choices?
I read one issue of the comic book to get ready, and I noticed that he has his sarcastic asides are going constantly, and they work on the page. And as soon as someone says them out loud, it's just something about it doesn't translate. Like I can't see this. Marvel's been threatening to make a Howard the Duck movie or Disney Plus show for years now. He appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy.
He did?
And he also doesn't work there. Like I feel the same way about Spider-Man. Spider-Man, the thing that he does in the comic books that doesn't translate to film is he's a chatterbox. He's always making jokes. And I feel whenever the actors do it, Tobey Maguire didn't do it, but Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland do it, and it's always awkward. They're always like making jokes as they fight their villains.
Got it.
And what works on the page when you're just reading it in your head just sounds dumb in real life.
Right, because you can almost think of it as something they're saying inside of their head too. And you get to choose when it's appropriate and when it's not. But when it's literally just somebody making a sarcastic little shitty comment, both when nothing's happening and when horrific, horrible, dangerous things are happening, it's just like, do you have any kind of self-regulation at all? Like, are you comprehending what's happening here? And when you do decide that you're scared or you're mad, where the fuck is that coming from?
And you can read it at your own pace when you're watching a movie and it's just shot, reverse shot. We're going to have to look at him now, deliver his thing, and then they're going to have to react to it.
Right.
Whereas in a comic book, you can just say it and nothing else, nothing happens as a result. Nobody reacts to it. Okay, Howard the Duck history. Howard the Duck. The movie.
What? This is Howard the Duck, the comic that you have on screen here?
That's right.
Does it not just look exactly like Donald Duck?
It looks so much like Donald Duck.
It's insane.
Which created a problem.
Oh, go on. Do tell.
So the movie we're talking about was the first ever live action feature adaptation of a Marvel comic. Interesting. They thought, this will open a whole new world of adaptations of Marvel characters. It didn't happen. At least not then. Too bad. Although, good thing. So Howard was created by Marvel Comics writer Steve Gerber and artist Val Myrick. When we talked about the X-Men history a few weeks ago, I had to caution, I'm not an expert. And I knew way more about X-Men than I know about Howard the Duck. I've just been cramming for 3 days for this. So I'm sure I'm going to get a million things wrong. And this is just the most baseline Wikipedia history of Howard the Duck. But that's Steve Gerber's the person most associated with the creation of Howard and sort of responsible for his voice and the tone of Howard in the early goings. But he first appeared in a comic called Adventures into Fear with the Man-Thing in 1973. And this was a horror comic, and he appeared as like a sort of abomination character who was nevertheless a funny sort of sidekick.
Okay.
And people really liked him. And so he started appearing alongside Man-Thing in the comics, but apparently Marvel's editor at the time thought this didn't mesh with the tone of the serious horror comic, so they had Gerber kill him off in an issue. But then fan mail came in saying, we like Howard, bring him back. So they brought him back. And then he got his own solo comic series in 1976 following his adventures, adapting to life on Earth in Cleveland alongside his friend Bev. Now, the publisher didn't have high hopes for the series, so they ordered apparently a minimal pressing of 250,000 copies, but comic speculators apparently bought them all up very quickly and inflated the value of them and also made it seem like there was a huge demand.
Oh.
And this was both a good and a bad thing for Howard. Like, it got a lot of publicity, but people weren't able to actually just go to the store and buy the comic, so they couldn't find out what it was about. So maybe the first time they see him is then issue 2 and they don't understand what's going on.
Huh.
But this at least brought a lot of attention, and the series became pretty popular. It was satirical. It spoofed other comics and movies and things happening in politics. It's sort of aimed at maybe a slightly older audience than the general comic book reader. Again, I only read one issue to prepare for it, but I quite enjoyed it. I read Howard the Duck number 5, where Howard tries to get...
How many are there?
I think in the original run, there's 27, but he's come back in many, many different forms. Credit to the Yesterworld video. Yesterworld's a great YouTube channel. They have a hour-long history of Howard the Duck, very exhaustive. And then there's also a 2016 oral history by Decider, and then a 2021 Hollywood Reporter article where they talk to Lea Thompson and to the guy who does the Howard the Duck voice. So those are my primary sources, and I'll put all that in the episode description. Okay, so George Lucas, our old friend George Lucas. He was a big comic book fan, and he was the co-owner of a comic shop and an art gallery in New York. And in 1976, he discovered Howard the Duck, and he was very drawn to it, and he thought it would be a good subject for a movie. And on our Star Wars episode, we learned that even back in the 1970s, George would openly talk about how he did not like directing movies, and he especially did not like writing movies. So he intended to just help someone else adapt Howard the Duck. And he went to film school at USC, and he joined this group of filmmaker friends, and it included Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz, who are the writer, director, producer team that made Howard the Duck. And they were the credited screenwriters on George Lucas's movie American Graffiti and uncredited writers of Star Wars.
Oh.
They're credited with writing the line, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" which Lacey loves. They went to have lunch with George Lucas while he was in post-production of Star Wars, and he told them about Howard the Duck. And it makes it seem like George just sort of had a bug in his ass for this. Like,
yeah.
I think this would be a good idea for a movie. And maybe they weren't as enthusiastic, but he just kept bringing it up.
Okay. It's like, he's not going to keep paying for lunch if we don't eventually.
And once he's finished with Star Wars, he is trying to choose what to do next. He has 3 possibilities for his next project. 1, a sequel to Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. 2, an adventure movie about a man who raids a lost ark.
If only.
And 3, Howard the Duck. So in reality, he made The Empire Strikes Back, then Raiders of the Lost Ark, and finally Howard the Duck. But in the mid 80s, it starts ramping up, and Willard Huyck is going to direct it. Gloria Katz is going to produce it, and both of them are going to write it. And George Lucas will be the executive producer / just face of the movie. How involved he actually was with the production, it's hard to say based on all the things I've read. Some people said he was very involved. Some people said he was never there. Who knows?
Okay.
And there were lots of conversations about like how to do this. Do we want to do this in animation? Do we want to do a live action animation hybrid? There was discussions about George Lucas's company, Industrial Light and Magic. They had a computer animation division. Maybe they could animate Howard the Duck and mix him into live action. After Howard the Duck, that division would get sold to Steve Jobs and become Pixar. So ultimately, they decided to do it with puppets. But what about the script? What kind of movie is this going to be? Is it going to be a satire? Is it going to be a film noir? Is it going to be like the comics? What are we talking? They're trying to figure that out while they also haven't actually figured out what kind of puppet they're going to use or who's going to do the puppets.
Okay, so they're figuring out every single thing at one time.
So a Universal executive named Frank Price had previously been at Columbia Pictures, and he was the one who greenlit Ghostbusters. And he was the executive in charge of Howard the Duck. And he just said, no, we're going to make it like Ghostbusters. We're going to give it the same budget as Ghostbusters. It's going to be special effects driven and many of the same beats, like a person getting possessed by a spirit and spirits coming over into this world and taking over. We're going to do that because like as they're developing it, Ghostbusters is the biggest movie in the world. So we're just going to do that.
See, they completely missed the reason why. Mm-hmm. It's the chemistry of the 3 actors. One of them, not a duck.
They wrote the script. They rewrote the script to tailor it more to that. And then the studio rushed it in production. Basically, they had 8 months from pre-production to it being in theaters, but they hadn't even started doing puppets.
Oh my God.
The idea was they were going to use puppets with an animatronic mouth for most of the scenes, but when it's a wide shot or when the character is walking, they're going to have an actual actor in the costume. They're either going to have a little person or they're going to have a kid. But these puppets that they designed with very expressive and articulate features basically fell apart on the first day of shooting. So they had to only use the person in the suit.
Oh, okay.
The people in the suit was a 12-year-old named Jordan Prentice. He was going to be the main actor, and then they had Ed Gale, who was a little person actor. He would do the stunts, but the kid apparently suffered from claustrophobia and had lots of other issues. So they basically had to reshoot almost everything he did with Gale, and also just they like moved entirely differently, so none of it was very cohesive.
Right.
Puppeteers were Tim Rose. He had done Admiral Akbar in Return of the Jedi. And he brought along Tad Krasnowski, who was coming off of Labyrinth, and they were given 3 weeks to come up with the puppets 3 weeks before the filming started.
God.
All of this was so rushed. Nobody, there just really seemed to be no cohesive vision. And I get so stressed out reading these things because I try to make creative things with other people. You make these decisions, and then once you start, you realize this doesn't work at all, and we have to just fix everything on the fly. But they would improve the puppets and then realize they had to go back and reshoot all the stuff they already filmed because it won't match the good looking puppets. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of backtracking.
So what did we end up with? Good looking or bad looking puppets? Is this the best one, or
this is the best they could do? Like they would shoot stuff, then they'd make an improvement on the puppet and say, okay, well, we have to go back and reshoot the old stuff because it just isn't going to look right at all. I don't think it looks great in the final. The final production. It never stops looking very obviously just like a costumed character.
Right. The bill particularly, and I don't know how much more realistic I want the bill to look, but it just looks like I could chew on it, like big thick plastic.
The other movie that did something like this was the Ninja Turtles movies from the early 90s, and they had people in a costume and then an animatronic puppet on their head.
Yeah.
And that works beautifully, and I guess it was the Jim Henson Puppet Shop. Maybe the puppets were just better and the technology was further along. But I think there being 4 turtles makes it less jarring than just having one duck interacting with humans.
Well, and the turtles are human sized. They seem like old teenagers or adults. They have a fully formed mouth. You're not trying to see past. Like if it were a dog snout or a pig snout, it would be just as awkward as the duck. You have to see the mouth for the range because if it's just too uncanny. If you're supposed to read this person as a person and you can't see them make expressions as you're used to seeing an expressive person face, and he's also missing a nose, so which the turtles, none of them have noses, right? It's eyes and mouth.
No, but the beaks look like
I'm
noses.
sorry, the turtles have beaks.
They say beak, yeah.
Oh, all right, that's fine. But yeah, Howard's just missing. He just needs one more thing to human him up. Plus, he does not have 5 fingers. And it's like, well, you evolved to have your wings be hands and arms. Why couldn't they just give you all the fingers? It's like he had 1 too many or 3 too many animal things.
Mm-hmm. And just remember throughout the whole movie, this was supposed to, they had a puppet that was much better able to articulate and express itself that broke.
That's what he looks like. He looks like a Furby from this time.
He does look like a Furby,
whatever.
yeah.
The eyes. The eyes are the thing that messed me up about it. Is it a Furby? They were animatronic.
Furby,
yeah, that's the eyes. It's like everything is a cuddly thing, but the eyes are too human, and they're naked. It's like skin instead of fur all the way up to the eye. I can't explain it.
So it's like a whole movie of Furbies, and remember, it's the B level Furby because the A level Furby broke, so we just had to use the Furby that was only supposed to be in wide shots. And then the other thing that I mentioned was they didn't cast a voice actor. They had the puppeteers on set doing the voices, often like bland, not actually giving vocal performances. They hired Robin Williams to do the voiceover for Howard, and they were very excited. They thought it was quite a coup, but he came on set and he quickly realized how constrained he would be because he had to just fit the very slight movements that the character had already done.
He'd be doing this thing that he does sometimes the entire time. And the thing about him is the surprise in the switch he makes,
which the genie in Aladdin is all animating
gusto and then tiny
his vocal tracks that he had already done, and that's the ideal way to do animation is you animate the vocal performance you already have, not reverse engineer it.
Sure. God, they should have just picked someone. You're not going to find someone equally as famous, but you certainly could find someone whose charm is their mumbly nature. Like there had to be some like vaudeville. Am I saying that right? Vaudeville.
Well, it's like 60 years too late, but
there's got to be there's got to be some kind of radio person or something where like the person's charm is like the garble, the minimal, the dry, like deadpan nature or something.
If someone were doing a sort of Humphrey Bogart, it might make a little more sense.
Yes, and the noir thing would make more sense, which is what they seem to be hinting at in the entire opening, and then that just goes away.
I know. When it started, I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is going to be like a Roger Rabbit thing. But no, it goes away. Chip Zien did the voice. He was a Broadway actor.
That's what I said.
I'm going to enunciate.
Vaudeville.
Lea Thompson gave this quote to the Hollywood Reporter in 2021. She said, quote, I felt like I was dragging Howard the Duck up a hill by myself with my teeth the whole time. All the jokes were falling flat. Comedy is a souffle. We had amazing puppeteers, but they were the ones doing the jokes. I was like, it would be great if you could have an actor doing the lines to keep the ball in the air.
Right.
The technical side of making the movie was so difficult and fraught. I kept saying to them, the duck doesn't work. End quote.
We got to just get rid of the duck part of this.
This is one of those movies where when you read quotes from the people, they're like, we knew while we were making it, it wasn't trouble. It wasn't like we went to the premiere and realized this thing sucks.
Oh, man.
So Universal demanded that George Lucas would be front and center of the marketing. There are even articles that described it as George Lucas's new movie, even though he was just the executive producer. George Lucas was producing movies and in the early 80s and not taking credit. Like movies like Body Heat and Return to Oz. Just because if George Lucas's name is in the credits, you're like, oh, what kind of movie is this going to be? And Mel Brooks actually did the same thing. Mel Brooks would produce movies. Like he personally hired David Lynch to make The Elephant Man.
Yeah.
And he's like, if people see my name in the credits, they're going to think this is
going to be funny. Yeah.
And as a result, he didn't get a Best Picture nomination for that movie because he just didn't want to
take away from
didn't want people's expectations literally just being on screen.
Right.
So it's sort of a that thing.
When you have such a style, it's like it's great about you. It'll make you one of the greats. It'll make you have a legacy, but it has its downsides.
Constrains you.
Yeah.
There was a huge marketing campaign for this movie in which Howard's appearance was never revealed. The poster is an egg with his beak sticking out.
God.
There's lots of product tie-ins like Budweiser. There are some Budweisers in the movie. And in interviews, the filmmakers always talked about Howard as if he were a real person. They wouldn't talk and this is so awkward. You can watch interviews with the director where they're like, so there are 8 people credited with playing Howard. And he's like, well, Howard's a difficult actor to work with. And they're like, well, to be clear.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Actors are playing Howard, right? No. Howard is a duck and like he's not totally in on selling this, but he has to. And they didn't invite Ed Gale, the little person actor who plays Howard. They didn't invite him to the premiere because they thought people would see him and assume he was the actor who played Howard.
Well,
like why is this so important? No, he's real. The reactions were scathing when it came out. This is a movie for nobody. It's too risque for kids.
Yeah.
It's too goofy and silly for teenagers and adults. What's the deal with this movie?
It's very confusing. What the fuck is that?
Lacey's looking at a picture of Howard the Duck from Guardians of the Galaxy 2014.
Oh.
When he was the teaser at the very end of the movie.
Okay. I like this duck. I mean, I don't love it, but like this is interesting.
I don't even remember. I think he says the word gross. Like the little Astro dog is licking Benicio del Toro, and then they look over at Howard the Duck and he's just like, gross.
Oh, because he's like one of the oddities that the man was collecting.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yes. The movie was a big flop, would often show up on the list of worst movies of all time. George Lucas thought he had another mega franchise on his hand. Chip Zien, the voice actor of Howard, said to the Hollywood Reporter in 2021, he said, quote, I was supposed to be Howard the Duck as a fill-in host on Entertainment Tonight. I signed a contract to be the voice of AT&T, and I had ancillary rights for talking Howard the Duck dolls. It was overwhelming. End quote.
I'm going to have to make a prediction as to the slice of pie that globbed on to this movie. It has to be unsupervised kids whose parents would take them to Blockbuster or something. They saw something called Howard the Duck and thought that's a kid movie, but did not watch the movie with the children. Or it's kids who caught this on like, I don't know what form I wonder if there's like a very edited version of this that ended up on like TBS or something. And
but you don't even have to edit anything out.
I know, but like her crawling on her bed in her underwear and
but I just think of the movies at the time, like Ghostbusters has a whole joke where Dan Aykroyd gets a blowjob from a ghost. Think of all the stuff in Beetlejuice. These are all PG movies.
Yeah.
And tonal, like it's basically just like those
But
movies.
it's a kid movie.
But those were too.
Not Beetlejuice. I'd say Ghostbusters. But
I
it
mean-
had adult stars in it. Like, I mean, the stars of Ghostbusters are 3 grown-ass men, where here people infantilize women anyway. Plus, Lea Thompson was really young, and it's a tiny duck. Just feel like it's...
Yeah, this is the one that you would look at and say, that's probably a kid's movie.
Yes, and I thought it was until we watched it.
So,
And I still see that it could be.
but it's developed a cult following over the years because, like Lacey said, kids probably just rented it from Blockbuster without their parents knowing and being like, this is kind of hot.
Yes, like the... But have you seen Howard the Duck? It's kind of like the slice of education on sex and getting to see some titillating stuff that it would be funny for like an 8-year-old to see it and be like, oh,
It's like an
Got him.
American Pie when Casey Affleck hands
no, it's not.
Kevin, his younger brother, the book of how to give women orgasms. It's like that.
We need to
you
do
seen
that
Howard
movie.
the
You
Duck?
bring up American Pie all the time.
So important to me. I like this quote from Lea Thompson. So Lea Thompson, who, best known for playing Marty McFly's mother in Back to the Future, and I think is a sort of underappreciated part of why that movie's so great.
Yeah.
She's now a very successful TV director. She campaigned to direct a Howard the Duck reboot, but she said, quote, "People now appreciate the movie in the spirit in which it was made. It was an iconoclastic movie. It is for little rebels. And I love that fans had to be brave when they said, I like that movie. It was so easy to make fun of it. And that is why I often say my Howard the Duck fans are my favorite fans because they had to earn it. It was not just jumping on the bandwagon." And then she said, the article says her only regret is that she never told the producer Gloria Katz about all the positives that had come from the film before the producer died in 2018. She said,
No.
quote, "I cried for a day when I heard that Gloria died. After the movie came out, it was so maligned, and I felt bad that I never told her about all the Howard fans who have come up to me at Comic-Con. So happy." End quote. I like that.
Well, way to bum me out, Leah.
But it's nice
It's
that
nice.
they make her happy. Tell the people in your life how you feel is what we're saying. Now,
It's just interesting that she picked the duo. She picked the woman because I'll bet it did impact the woman's career in a more extreme way than what repercussions for the guy.
yeah, he never directed another movie after this. I mean, they both worked consistently in TV and in movies. Just he didn't direct another thing. Lea Thompson was the lead of Caroline in the City in the 90s.
That's where I know her from.
Yeah,
I forgot.
she's doing great. As for the real Howard the Duck, I don't know what he's up to because he
No.
is a real duck after
He
all.
just has this one cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy. And
So before we even talk about anything, I was trying to figure out, I'd like to hear your thoughts. What is this movie about? Like, what is it saying?
does it have a message?
Like Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is the movie, Beetlejuice and Ghostbusters, but I was especially thinking of Beetlejuice because of the stop motion and because of Jeffrey Jones.
Okay.
And Beetlejuice, and boy, if this movie did nothing else, it made me really increase my appreciation for Beetlejuice.
All right.
But Beetlejuice, you can say very clearly, this is a movie about chosen families and honoring the weirdness in ourselves and the people we love. And that's what makes us great. It's not something that, you have to look past. So I was when I watched this movie again, I'm like looking for, I guess that's
it.
what's
That's
going on
the
here
closest.
too. But it's like, you can find your home anywhere, but it's like obligatory, like one line here or there too.
Yeah, it totally did not feel like there was a deeper message. I feel like there was a string of movies that happened during this time and earlier where and a little bit later, where it just needed something weird, like Air Bud, or like, it didn't have to have a deeper message. It just had to be, there's a duck. Mm-hmm. There's a duck in this whole entire movie.
It's just like the sort of your screenplay needs an idea. It all needs to tie together around a central theme.
Right.
That can get very tiring, but it's a formula
it's
for
essential.
a reason. And when you see that it's not, when you see that a movie like this is just missing that kind of spine, you're like, well, I have nothing else to hold on to here. It's just jokes and set pieces that aren't that well done.
I don't even totally understand all the relationships. Particularly the character of Phil or Philzy, the scientist. That is a muddy. I mean, he's kind of a goof. He's kind of a hero, kind of a coward. He's not dating Beverly.
No, I know.
But he likes Beverly.
It really feels like they combined 2 or 3 characters into him.
Yeah.
And I think Tim Robbins has a lot of good, funny moments in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like it's mostly he seems like a coward and a goofy idiot, but then at the end, he's just kind of playing him as a straight hero.
Right. And he seems like really intelligent and then really dumb. Like he's the doofus of the lab, but he's got these amazing insights and he's so inspired and so enthusiastic about science, and then he kind of poops out. Like
Doesn't it feel like it's kind of nice that he never hits on Beverly?
Yeah.
But it also feels like that was a mistake. Like they forgot to throw that in.
Well, because then you'd have a weird, awkward love triangle, right? Because like they do want to leave open this is this a romance? Is it not, between Beverly and Howard? It is something beyond friendship.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we did it again. Scene 1.
Scene 1, the duck world. It's a world just like our own, and the music is film noir, and this is 2 years before Roger Rabbit, but the movie starts, I'm like, oh, maybe this will be Roger Rabbit. And Roger Rabbit's like the epitome of what you're trying to do with sort of this kind of story. In terms of mixing really advanced technical stuff with like social commentary and then just a funny, silly story.
Fine, but when you only bring one character from one planet to an entire planet, then you're saying a bit more than what you're dealing with something that isn't really even practical. This does not happen. Like just one of something existing. Yeah, it doesn't give you enough to like, we can't know this. We can't even know how to navigate this.
You're right. Roger Rabbit, you can relate it. You can they're a metaphor for race or for any kind of secondary class. But here it's like, doesn't this make you think about the situation where an alien lands on Earth?
Right. And then because it also brought with it a demon for some fucking reason, they just destroy the device that was capable of doing this. So then we're not at all curious about other planets anymore because we can't safely do it. We brought in one. Let's not. I mean, it actually feels kind of different but this isn't the government, right? These are just some scientists who they don't have the permits. There's no way. So it's like they took it upon themselves to bring in someone from another planet, and they're like, we're all done. Sorry.
Yeah, this is the scientific arm of some giant company. And this is what happens when you let capitalism run rampant. They'll poke holes in the universe and bring stuff over, which I fully expect to happen one day.
Okay. And then but you'd think if they did that, it's a major company and they're about to get lots of lawsuits, they'd go to great lengths to kill the duck, to kill the one thing that is evidence that they did this.
You're right. Yeah, it's a little too optimistic about humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, there is the scene where everybody's trying to cook and kill him,
which is it's the number one, not the worst scene, but it's up there.
But I feel like all throughout the movie, everyone who comes in contact with him should first vomit and then second try to kill him. Like, I think that's how we would actually. At the end of this, I'll pose again to you. What would actually happen if this happened?
I also tried to think of like, what actual thing would I have to see in front of me to believe it is an alien?
Yeah.
To believe it is an actual duck walking around. I mean, they're all responding to this guy as though I know right away that is just a duck that is upright and has arms, but
has consciousness and
it evolved arms and lost its wings, but still has its tail feathers for some fucking reason, which would only be necessary for swimming and flying. And by far the most like, what's the word? Uncanny, like uncomfortable part of the way that this duck looks is its poofy butt. It looks like a baby in a diaper.
Yeah.
lose that, and then I'm more in it. Just when he turns around, he's got a big poofy ass. I can't take him seriously, and
he needs to look less human.
Or more duck. Or or more human. Like, I need him to go one way or the other. He's in some no man's land that I do not enjoy.
So, okay, scene 1.
Okay.
It's the duck world, and there's film noir, and Howard's apartment is kind of a sad guy's apartment, and he has posters
No, it's not. He's a cool guy apartment.
But
he
feels some ennui.
Yeah, fine, but he's like killing it with the ladies. His parents still talk to him. The messages on his machine tell you all you need to know about him. This is a duck with his life figured out. I mean, maybe he's dissatisfied because we all are, but he's got a good life.
Well, he has a postcard from a duck lady named Michelle saying, "I miss your beak pressed against mine." And then on the answering machine is a voicemail from Wendy, another woman who's like, "Howard, I miss you."
Right.
Aww.
So he's a womanizer, is what I...
Yes, but then that never comes back the rest of the movie.
Except for he does have a way with Beverly.
Yeah, but it's not like I expected him to be hornier for her. And then he has goldfish, and it occurred to me: so are all the other normal animals on this planet that would be on Earth? It's just ducks instead of humans.
Well, I mean, it's right. We evolved from apes instead of goldfish. So we still have goldfish.
Yeah, and everything else is the same, and indeed is proceeding so parallel that Raiders of the Lost Ark is Breeders of the Lost Stork.
Exactly right. I know that if all possible realities are possible, this is just a little too close. I know it's just to make gag after gag, but it's like. But it makes it not interesting. It's lazy, right? Like, show me how the duck world is different from our world and the same. Show us the similarities, but how things are adapted and how things might be a little bit off. But it seems just the opening is entirely just so that they can do puns.
And I was wondering if maybe in 1986, not all of culture was just pop culture references to other things you've seen. So it was just novel just to see like, oh, that's like the poster for the other movie I know. And they're like, they have the Superman reference when he goes through the portal and there's a monolith in the sky. And
so you think these are nods for nerds?
Not necessarily. I don't know. I think maybe they thought people are going to just love that they know the references. I don't know. Just trying to be a little.
I don't know. The 80s aren't that long ago. And I think people were very plugged in to cultural things because they spent so much of their time at the mall. And the mall is just nothing but whatever people are trying to sell you at the time, right? So the Cineplex is connected to the mall, so you're seeing the advertisements of the movie posters constantly. Like, I don't know. I think it's more connected than you think. I think it's just hacky. I do like that they used a real style of Budweiser beer that they still, it's a pony, right? So it's like the little guy. And then whenever he goes to the human world, it's just a regular 12 ounce and he goes, oh, big beer.
Yep.
And I love that they didn't shrink or have to miniaturize something that makes something that didn't exist. It's just, here's a pony.
That is nice. I forgot something I wanted to say.
Oh.
If you, if Howard the Duck arrived on Earth today, something that I think, I would think is like, oh, he's a deep fake. And it's like, but you're looking at him in person. I'm like,
right.
No, some technology that I don't know about. There's
I don't
some
think
sort
I
of
could
hologram or something.
Yes, I don't think I could be convinced that. I don't think I could jump to, this is something from another planet. Though no one does. Like, no one's like, alien. People are just like, duck. Ew.
Right. It's kind of I don't want every single interaction to be people astonished and needing to be convinced. It's kind of nice. But the movie we're covering next week, the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, and we've already recorded that episode. But I thought Mark Wahlberg accepts that he's on a Planet of the Apes about as fast as Howard accepts his situation and they accept him. She's like, I'm on a Planet of the Apes.
Well,
okay.
I like to think of him as the Cleveland duck, right? Like, so like he keeps kind of bouncing around around the same parts of the city. And if he becomes a promoter of a band that actually does pretty well locally, I like to think of them just like, that's just our duck. That we're used to him now. He's just,
hey, it's the Cleveland duck.
He's just that duck.
You mess with Cleveland, you mess with Howard.
Like once you see him.
Yeah.
And social media would make this way more sped up. Just like, well, there's that duck.
Remember on our Signs episode, we had a debate about, because in the movie Signs, crop circles cause all of television programming to be preempted with news coverage of crop circles. And I said, that's not a big enough deal. And you said, oh, yes, it is. Would Howard the Duck be a big enough deal to preempt all of news coverage?
It does not have the same issues that the crop circles do. My whole thing was that it was a coordinated mass crop circling around the globe in places where it would not make sense for like crime syndicates or like cells of whoever or like planned this crazy thing to do. I said that alone would make it worldwide news. This is just one duck.
Okay, so it'd have to be multiple ducks, and it'd have to be
multiple ducks showing up at different cities,
Yeah.
seemingly unrelated. Like that laser popped in a bunch of ducks.
Yeah, that there is something inherently.
Headline: what the duck? Okay.
Howard takes out a play duck to masturbate to. We see our first pair of duck
Ew.
tits. Then he gets sucked out by a portal, and it sucks him through the rest of his apartment building. We see a sexy lady duck taking a bath.
With-
we see her duck nipples too.
Very nipply.
And then he just gets yanked off of his planet and into the earth.
And into the scariest fucking. What is it? His luck is terrible. What do these guys want to do to him?
He lands in Cleveland in an alley, and then some crust punk thugs like find him, and
With
he's like
so many layers. They have so many layers. Scarves, jackets, vests.
all kinds of different dues.
Okay, well that's very 80s, but these guys are accessorized.
See, I assumed all of the 80s looked like this. And he says, "I'm a dad doc." And we just right away are like, okay, this voice delivery just does not work.
Also, this is your reaction? I don't care how fucking dry sense of humor, deadpan, fucking swarmy, I don't know the words I'm looking for here. I don't care how fucking over it you are, just, as a duck. But you land in another fucking planet, like, wowzers. Or I can't think of another. God damn it. I should have prepared a list of 80s quotes.
So that happens.
So that, I did a thing.
He gets thrown, these crust punk toughs throw him into the club where Beverly Switzler, Lea Thompson, is singing with her band, Cherry Bomb. And they're playing in these grungy mungholes, waiting for their big break. And he's just like flailing around, freaking people out, and he himself is getting freaked out. This might be my favorite part of the movie, just looking at all the weird 80s people. Then Beverly leaves the club.
Those
and
weird 80s people are just our friends now. We know people. Don't call them weird.
No, I celebrate their weirdness. Like
Were
Beetlejuice.
we weird 90s people?
Probably. Oh, but the 80s were objectively much weirder than the 90s.
I don't know about that.
But he looks like he went into Mad Max.
Okay, yeah.
And then the Mad Max people attempt to sexually assault Beverly, and she
Multiple times.
starts to fight them off, and then Howard gets involved, and he's like, "No more, Mr. Nice Duck." Oh my God. And then he announces he is a master of quack foo.
Why?
So you know what kind of movie you're in for.
Why did we need that?
I like that Beverly's at least like fighting them off herself, and then he just helps her.
Right.
She's not totally a damsel, although at the end of the movie, she's literally strapped
To a train.
Yeah.
Train track.
And then she's like, "Hey, why don't you come to my apartment?" So he goes to her apartment. He's like, "What a dump. This gorgeous palace that she lives in."
I love the way.
Yeah.
I love that fucking apartment.
It's beautiful. Yes, this is where we should live.
Yes.
Let's move to Cleveland.
An open floor plan. She likes him a lot.
Like right away.
Right away.
Yeah. Yeah. And she explains her situation. She's in a band, but their sleazoid manager's holding money out on them. And she says her career's like in a crisis, but never explains why.
Right. When was it taking off? Are you just like down on the last of your money, so you're going to have to get a job now?
Nothing like that ever comes up. Just
nothing. It is disturbing how she oscillates from finding him adorable and finding him like you're such a slut. When she finds the condom, I'm so disturbed. Howard.
She goes through, because he falls asleep and she watches him sleep like he's a little baby. And then she goes through his wallet. She sees the mallard card and blooming ducks card and looks in his pictures. He has a picture of him with two sexy babes at the beach. And then, a loose duck condom.
Just a loose, no feathers on it, no wrapper.
And she goes, "Howard, you dog."
Oh, I should have expected that knowing you. You don't know him. And if a giant baby from outer space came and then you found out that those fucked and then they had tiny little baby condoms, I'm just saying, like, which is he? Is he a baby to you, or is he a guy that fucks?
Or is
it's
it
a
like,
weird mixture?
"Hey, good for you being responsible." And then,
No, that's not what that was. I mean, that's not the reaction.
then she looks at him fondly as he's sleeping, like sucking his thumb. And she's like, "What am I going to do with you, ducky?" She keeps calling him Ducky throughout the movie.
It doesn't. Unearned pet names I love, actually.
What?
I don't like baby names, and like there are names I don't like, but I love it when in a movie when someone immediately gives someone a pet name. They almost never want it. I like that he's Philzy when his name is Phil. Like, why are we calling him this? I do this. I give people pet names all the time. I guess
that's why you like it. Yeah, I was expecting you to say the very opposite.
Oh, no, I like it.
Well, yeah, the next day she takes him to the Natural History Museum to see her friend, played by Tim Robbins, as Phil. I mean, what's Phil's deal?
He's like eccentric, and he seems to be doing an impression of a few other scientist characters, or just slapsticky guys I guess we might have met at some point in cinema. I don't think he knows what he is. I don't think he was being directed in any sort of way. And he just knows he's going to be helpful, but he's also supposed to be unhelpful. He's not helpful. He knows he's not supposed to be helpful right away. So he's got to be very like fumbly and overly excited and overly intrusive, which I guess I could buy that for a scientist. Mm-hmm. He seems like he's winging it. I think he's a talented actor who is just like, they're not telling me what to do. I'm just going to do everything.
Yeah, I'm just going to do a lot. I mean, sometimes he's like the Rick Moranis from Ghostbusters. And then other times he's like a lot more competent and active as a character.
Right.
His relationship to Beverly seems to fluctuate. Yeah. So they take him, he examines him, and he's like, well, first he says, it's a bird. It's a plane. It's God. A duck.
It's a bird. You had it right the first time.
That's when I wrote my note of like, maybe in the 80s it was enough just to be like, you know what that is, right? That's Superman, people.
I guess.
And then people laughed. This is the height of comedy. And he starts talking like Donald Duck to Howard. And then Howard looks at the camera and he's like, this is one of Earth's greatest minds here. Oh, brother.
How did you even know the name of this planet? Yeah, she did tell you.
She told him, yeah.
Fine, don't tell him.
And then Phil explains, he's like, okay, so here's what your deal is. I think humans evolved from monkeys, which no, they didn't. They evolved from a common ancestor, but okay. He would know that as a paleontologist. And then he's like, on your world, everybody evolved from a duck. And Howard's like, well, every school child on Duck World knows that, you idiot.
Yeah, but he guessed it like within 5 minutes of knowing you. I know, it's
impressive.
Asshole. I mean, he even had a chart. Where'd you get the chart?
Well, they are imagining the chart.
Oh, okay. And where'd you get that imagination? Okay.
He's a lab assistant. He's not an actual like real scientist.
Which is a huge, hilarious joke.
I guess
at the end of this scene, when like we're relying on you. I was impressed that Beverly knew any scientists. Who cares if he's a janitor right now, or just like a tech?
Right. You
got to start at the bottom.
If we had a science issue, we know one person.
We do?
Your stepbrother. Who like is a chemist,
a very impressive something that deals with coronavirus type cells. I know that.
I know that no matter what we went to him with, he'd be like, I'm a blank, not a blank.
Well, that's fine. But he'd know a blank, and then he'd get us to the right place. I'm so glad you mentioned this, because now I was worried. Like, I don't know a scientist.
But Howard is frustrated this time, and
it's like, Howard, do you have any other fucking options? Do you have any other? Why are you so over it with everything? This was a good idea. It's not nothing.
Yeah, and it's only been a day.
It's been one fucking day.
Imagine how much more you'll learn tomorrow.
She's got a life. She's not making very much money right now. She's taking you to the fucking museum.
Her career is falling apart,
she says. It's falling apart.
The cherry bombs there's lots of tension.
They seem fine. It's just they're not making any money.
So they go their separate ways. Howard goes off by himself. He goes to the unemployment office.
Who sends him to a sex dungeon? On cum cleanup, I assume.
Yeah.
At a fuck spa, you call it. That's good.
Yeah, I was trying to like the Wikipedia description, because this is a spa where couples can like fuck in hot tubs, and like it seems like it's decorated for that purpose.
It does.
And so I looked up. So Wikipedia calls it a romance spa. So I googled romance spa because I'm like, should we go to one?
But it's hot tubs. There's so much of other people's semen.
Oh,
like when we bought this house and we had the jets inspected in our bathtub, and it shot out years of pubes from someone else.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think
the
about
jets
that
they suck in and then they push out.
Well, I was looking, but I was just like, do these exist? Are these a real thing? Should we go to them? The responses I got were couples massage, but like we've gotten a couples massage. It was nothing like this.
There's no red lights and ducks, nothing.
That's what I want though. Wouldn't you like to go to like one of those cliche honeymoon hotels with the heart-shaped bed?
Yeah. Well, no, the heart-shaped hot tub.
Both.
But yeah, but if the heart-shaped bed, then I can't lay my head next to you because I'm on the other side of the heart.
You're in the middle of
yeah, and then my head's just hanging off and you're having a great time on one of the hump of the hearts.
That's true.
Total hump.
But would you like to go to, shouldn't we go to Niagara Falls and do that? We never had a proper honeymoon.
Niagara Falls seems spritzy. Like I don't want to be next to something beautiful then just like fucking spraying me the whole fucking time. Yeah. But yeah, let's go, let's do this. Let's do something majestic. I liked when we went to a scenic park that time in Washington.
What? Oh, that. Okay.
That's a national park.
Yeah.
We went really high up. All right. So I think Howard's finding life on Earth tricky. Where the fuck has this man been sleeping? Can't he just build a nest? Why does he need a whole house? So he finds that, I walk right by the chair, my living room chair that I came in this planet on. And I hear that siren song. I will say her music, the original songs for this movie are good. If I'd watched this movie growing up, I'd like all these songs. I don't mind them. They're a little, what's the word I'm looking for? A little sentimental for my taste. A little on the nose for the actual things that are happening in the movie. But
they were written by Thomas Dolby. He of She Blinded Me with Science. He wrote the Cherry Bomb songs. Lea Thompson did her own singing.
It did sound like her.
Though I would put her in the Hall of Fame of bad fake guitar playing.
Okay, well, that's your own kind of private hell that you invented. We will still love her. I like her in this. She's the best thing about the movie.
I like her too. I wouldn't say she's the best thing, but I like her.
I can't say Jim Jeffries.
Jeffrey Jones.
They're all bad. Doesn't matter what kind of Jeffrey I say.
Any kind of JJ. Yeah, JJ Abrams.
Jeffrey Schmeshmeen. So just Jeffries are bad. Right. Okay. Howard now breezes right into this, even though he got clocked immediately for being a child the last time he tried to get in here. But now they're like, oh yeah, that Cleveland duck. So he comes in and I guess he's just watching her do her thing and he overhears the grossest. This is just not a safe town for women, I'd like to say. Talking like with bodacious Beverly, I'm holding on all of her money because she won't fuck. And they're all think that's real funny. Him and his cronies, and he's got a big wad of money. He puts it in his pocket, and Howard will not stand for it.
Because she had told Howard earlier, we have this sleazoid manager, but he's holding our money out on us.
Right. Turns out she was holding out.
Yeah, he literally hears him saying that. Right. I'll give her this money once she stops holding out on me.
Ew.
And so Howard decides, I'm going to kick some ass with Quack Fu.
Great. And he does it.
He holds him down with an ice pick, puts an ice pick through his earring.
It was a big thing during this time because piercings were still on the fringes. Now everyone's got a piercing, but there are so many 80s movies that injure someone with their piercing. Now if someone has a piercing in a movie, they're just cool or they're just a guy. But if you had like a nose ring or a nipple ring or something in the 80s, you were going to get damaged from it. I will try to think of other examples.
Most people I've known in life who get a piercing, including you, like I'd say half the time it seems like it doesn't end well. Like there's there's an infection or a trip to the hospital or the hole just won't stay a hole.
What did I do? It's just a process. Yeah, I ripped my nose ring out several times in my sleep and bled everywhere. But now it's healed and it's fine. Why are you going to bring up my business?
No, that's one of the successful ones. Patrick, our freshman year of college, my friend Patrick got his lip pierced. And in the middle of the night, we had to go to a hospital in Baton Rouge and we had to call information to find it because there's just blood gushing from his lip.
Okay, well, he's just a little bitch. And you were being bitches about it.
Probably.
It was going to be fine. We're 17 and we don't know what we're doing.
I like that Howard threatens Ginger. Ginger's the name of the manager. He threatens him with space rabies. And Ginger's like, is that a real disease? And then his friend Richie's like, I don't know, Ginger, I heard something about it on the news.
Okay. Then idiots being idiots.
Howard goes into the dressing room of the Cherry Bombs and they're all like, oh, hi, Howard. We heard so much about you.
Well, because, yeah, if you met a duck, Matt, when you tell people about the fucking duck you met?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't complaining.
I think it's sweet. This is the sweetest scene in the entire movie. She goes, hi, ducky. And it was like, okay, I get it. I get why John, our listener who requested this, likes their relationship. It goes off the rails for me in the bedroom scene. I didn't need it, but if they hadn't had it, I'd say the sweetness and the playful back and forth works for me completely, except for that one way over the top scene.
I think that's why that scene is why it works. Well, I think it's if the sex scene wasn't there, you'd be wondering about
if they're ever going to have sex. Okay, so you're saying like because they basically say we're not going to do that, but he gets an erection.
I admire the movie for going for it.
All right.
He goes into their dressing room, and then Tim Robbins comes in because he's dating one of the other cherry bombs.
Right.
And that's why I think he was like a composite character of multiple characters. But he comes in and he's like, sorry, ladies, I missed the show. I came to see you undressed, though. He has a lot of funny deliveries. Yeah. And he's like, I was talking to some astrophysicists, the ones who discovered that Aztecs came from Mars. Anyway, we're going to figure out where you come from. I just need a feather. And he plucks a feather.
And God, does he get upset?
Yeah, well, Howard didn't consent to him taking his feather.
Right, but like ducks molt. Like it's a part, you shed your feathers and then you grow new ones. It's part of, he's helping.
But he forcibly removed it.
Fine.
It's like if you cut a cat's whiskers off. Like, yeah, the whiskers
that is different. The whiskers are to help them find where they are in space and time. It also helps their balance. That's different. These feathers are not helping him stay upright.
Feathers have a reason. There's a reason they have feathers. Okay. So yeah, then the sex scene, and it's pretty steamy.
Okay.
Beverly, they go back to Beverly's apartment, and she gets ready for bed in just the skimpiest of underwear.
There's no way she's comfortable in all that.
She climbs into bed, and she's like, "Hey, Ducky, come lie next to me. Let's watch David Letterman."
That actually sounds nice.
And well, wait. First, she's like basically presenting for him. She's like holding up her butt, and he's like, feathers. I'm kind of learning to appreciate the human female form. And she turns around, she's like, Howard,
I can't even believe you'd say that about my butt I'm presenting.
So she's like, come on, get into bed. It's time for bed, even though all the lights are on. She makes him get into bed, and then she threatens to have sex with him. Like she's about to take her shirt off. She's rubbing his stomach.
No, God. He's wearing little kid's pajamas, and when she puts her hand in his tiny little boy's pajamas, I am like going to throw up in my mouth. He seems like a little boy. It is so fucking uncomfortable because he's uncomfortable. He's acting like a little boy all of a sudden. All of a sudden, he's not a man anymore. He doesn't want it. That is why I was like, oh, fuck this. Okay, no.
Yeah, and I wonder if it was the kid or the adult in the costume for that moment.
I thought you said it's all adult.
I think it is mostly the adult. The intention was kid for most scenes, adult. I know you
said it, the intention, but then you said the kid was like claustrophobic.
Mm-hmm. When she rubs his stomach, his feathers on the top of his head poke up. Ooh. So funny little bone. Yeah, if the movie needed to be way more of this, or not have it at all.
Or
like this
have
needed to
him topless, like in boxers, dressed like a grown man going to bed.
Okay,
not like a little boy going to bed, and you're scared like a little boy. Ew.
Yeah, we need to believe she might actually want to fuck him.
And not because he's a little boy. Because again, I've been confused the whole time. Does she think he's adorable and want to take care of him? Or does she think he's hot? And why is it both?
You're right. It needs to, like how Jessica Rabbit feels about Roger Rabbit.
Yes, it's all sex.
Okay.
And so you buy it. You buy that he's a sexual being and that he's doing something right. When it's both, dude, ew.
This, Lea Thompson's daughter, Zoe Deutsch, who's a very successful actress now. I just want to play this 30 seconds. She was on Conan O'Brien a few years ago talking about when she was a kid and she watched this scene of the movie.
Oh, good.
So there's a particular scene in the film in which my mother makes love to a duck. And
you saw that as a child?
And I saw it, what's the next step? I go to my father, I say to my mother, I'm like, oh my God, I know the duck's name was Howard. Dad, your name is Howard. This is complicated. Dad will love you more than this duck will. I was really making a case for...
Oh, you thought that she was going to leave your dad for a duck?
A duck. And so eventually they're like, it's for grown-ups, this film, you don't need to watch that. You weren't supposed to see that. And so at school, when people would ask me what my mom does for a living, I would say she's an actress in adult films.
I thought that was cute.
She's cute. She's fine. She's no Lea.
Okay. You see two women and you're like, I got to pit them against each other. There can only be one. So Tim Robbins and Jeffrey Jones show up. There's a weird tent just outside their bed that's casting a silhouette.
It's not a tent. It's just a tarp. It's to divide the bedroom area from the rest of the area because it's a very open room.
And they're like, sorry, the door was open. Well, why was the door open? Tim Robbins with Jeffrey Jones. Jeffrey Jones is playing Dr. Walter Jennings. He's like a big science man. And they're like, we found your feather. It matches another feather that we found in a portal or something. Well, we have a laser spectroscope experiment, and that must be what pulled you across space. And if we can just reverse the polarity or something, we can send you back. But we got to do it like right now because the planets are still in alignment. Okay, so that's the engine of the rest of the movie. We got a ticking clock. We got to line up the things.
I did not expect such a turn. I didn't, and it just became a completely different movie. One I did not sign up for.
What did you sign up for?
What I had endured the first 20 minutes of, or whatever it was.
And the poster of the movie has him reading a Rolling Egg magazine with Beverly on the cover. And so I was like, oh, this must be like he helps her become a star.
That's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I was like, that's it. Okay, I'm down with that.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the big problems with all the action that happens in the second half of the movie is it could just as easily happen in a non-Howard the Duck movie. Like it's not,
right.
None of it has anything to do with him being a duck.
Exactly. It's just like, we know how to do this cool thing with glowing, making a person glow. We know how to make a person's eyes glow now. We've got a guy that does, stop motion.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, we know how to do these things, and the kids loved it in Beetlejuice and in Ghostbusters. So they're going to love a duck. They're going to love all this crap, and they probably weren't wrong, but it's why it did not take off. It's why adults did. You need both.
You have a unique opportunity, a Howard the Duck movie. You've only got one shot at it. What can you only do
with a duck? Right. And you don't let him fly. I don't need him to. That would be weird if he was just flying all the time, but he can't swim. How is that evolutionary makes sense? Like, it's like us not knowing how to climb a tree. We do. We can. It's dumb. I don't know. I just feel like there's got to be things that are interesting because he's a duck, and they just completely give up.
They're concerned that this laser thing brought something else, or is going to bring something else.
They seem to know right away. Well, I guess it's because he is the thing that we get so much information.
Yeah.
But why did it have to be a demon? Why couldn't it have been a celestial thing? Why couldn't it have been something why add another layer? Now we have to believe in heaven and hell? Is that because you've already told us that there are other planets and the Bible doesn't include these other planets in the Bible? So you need to make sure this movie also, don't worry guys, we also believe in heaven and hell because look, demons.
I didn't take them to be literal, like
yes,
Christian demons.
That is, he says it multiple times.
Yeah,
what else does demon mean?
That was a space alien, just a bad space alien.
Then say aliens. He said they were demons who were banished to this part of the universe because of how evil they were.
But not by God.
You're deciding that. I really think that they probably were just like hedging their bets.
Okay, to make it palatable for...
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the cops come and they arrest Howard. They're like they think he's a costumed man. So they try to strip off the costume.
Which makes me upset.
And one of the cops says, I think the duckness is inborn, sir.
Wait. But you're skipping over the part that is the most upsetting to me, the sushi scene.
No, that's later.
How is that later?
I've got this in perfect order.
You get things out of order all the time.
No, I don't.
You do.
Definitely not here.
All right, then.
Because the sushi is the next slide, as you will see.
I mean, that doesn't mean you got it in the right order. But I don't remember cops busting. So cops busted this up?
The cops bust in.
They made them get on the run?
Yes, and then Beverly helps him escape, and I like that she helps him escape by stealing a gun from a cop, and she holds it on the cop, and then she looks over at Howard for approval. It's sweet.
That is sweet.
And then she
says, I'm doing a felony.
And she says, book him, ducko.
It's like, well, we're not going to go to that trouble, and I also don't have the technology for that, so let's just leave.
As all of this is happening, they're like, Jeffrey Jones disappeared. We don't know what happened to him. Dr. Jennings disappeared. We don't know what happened to him. But then Howard and Beverly find him, but he appears to have come back wrong. He's not himself. He's
like, well, what's his name in the people suit in Men in Black? Like Edgar in our people suit.
Yes. But he's still him, but the demon is taking him over.
Yeah. Which I think he plays well. I mean, I think he's a talented creep.
I know. He's very good in this movie. I mean, it makes perfect, and he's great in Beetlejuice.
Of all people to be called Ginger, though, why not him? He's an actual ginger. But fine.
So the three of them go on the lam together, and they go to a Cajun sushi diner.
Which is already a Mad Libs fucking joke. Like, I get it. It's supposed to be bumpkin. It's supposed to have plenty of white people because God forbid we hire a lot of Asian people for this scene. But it needs to be sushi because, like, it's a trope and a stereotype that Asian cuisine is like somehow more cruel or more definitely the way they treat the carcasses of like the duck
I didn't even think of that.
Hanging
That
in the
sucks.
window.
You're
Right.
right.
I mean, look at his face that he's making as he's about to. There's so many white chefs in here. Why did they take out him?
It's the Japanese sushi chef who's
Right.
wearing an Indiana Jones.
And
and the
I
Temple of
just
Doom
noticed that,
shirt.
yeah.
He's going to chop off Howard the Duck's head.
Entire restaurant is ready to do this. It's this is just like Planet of the Apes, the remakes, where it's like your humans talk. If we've long said that the difference between an human as an animal and other animals are our ability to communicate and have speech, and so we assume we have like interior thoughts and a consciousness and a soul and all this. So like, why do you treat your humans so poorly?
Maybe that's
apes?
what it's saying.
Okay, fine, but like this.
Well, I mean, with that and with this, it is kind of interesting. I'm not saying this movie is doing this, but it is interesting to think, what if animals started talking? How would that change our relationship? And when, it's like I know that the ability of gorillas and chimps to do sign language is kind of overstated.
Well, and then whales, right? You said whales are like really good
whales are like we don't know how smart they actually are, but then it's also, how do you define intelligence? We it's flawed the way we do it. Just because we have IQs and all these very flawed ways of measuring intelligence. How do we know that whales aren't intelligent in their own way? They have giant brains. They clearly have language. If we have AI that can learn how to decode their language, what if we were able to communicate with them? How would that change our relationship to them?
Right. We're probably just the assholes on the top of their world that are like busying ourselves with random useless projects that actually just make us miserable, and like having the highest ant pile compared to the person next to us and treating our fellow ants like shit. We're just ants on top of their world that's probably perfect down there. Mm-hmm. Like, they're smart. We're up here busying ourselves like morons.
Do they know that we're different from whatever other animals they see?
Or more annoying, probably. And if they can communicate across, okay, let's not have another whale tangent like we like to do. Go on.
Okay, they're in this, but the thing, there is a sign gag where like whatever the restaurant used to be, now they've pasted sushi over the middle of the name, so it's clearly like this restaurant's just trying things. Right. Now it's in its sushi phase, and I expected more shitty 80s sushi jokes, but there weren't really, other than the horrible thing about the chef going mad and wanting to kill this duck.
No, I'd be okay if it were just the chef. The entire restaurant, the guys that got the pies in their face, they had a really sweet waitress who I really liked. I didn't see her in on it, but like, I was disturbed by how much everyone was like, no, yeah, we should kill the duck. For what reason?
No, I think that would really happen.
Okay, but they don't even work there. All right, but wait, I did want to, before I forget, there's something so soothing and satisfying by the way Beverly and Howard are completely on the same wavelength with what they think everyone else is up to. So this guy is literally morphing into a demon right in front of them, and they're both just like, he needs coffee. Yeah, okay, Dr. Jen. Like, and they're just looking at each other like, this fucking guy. And just like, it's so soothing to me. Like, yeah, he's gonna be fine. He just needs coffee. And
it's soothing to you because they're so like on the same page about not worrying.
They're chill. Like, so I'm chill. And then whenever they realize like, okay, no, he has lasers in his eyes, and they need his help, they're like, come on, Dr. Jennings, please help us. And like, the demon's kind of nice.
Yeah, I like that too. I like that too. I like that dynamic. Because he's like, he's becoming the demon, and he's saying things like, I want to penetrate the inner core of your world and gargle its fluids. And they're like, get a life, doctor.
First, help us with this duck.
Pay for our dinner. And he says, I've disguised my true form, which would be hideous and revolting. And Beverly says, lucky for the people eating. Like, this movie has good jokes. Every good joke seems like it's teleported in from a better movie.
Yeah.
And he has like this code key that he's going to use to bring other dark overlords of the universe into Earth realm. Meanwhile, that waitress brings some fried eggs, and Howard freaks out because he's like, I'm not a cannibal, but these are chicken eggs. You're not a chicken, you're a duck.
All right. I eat monkey brains all the time.
All the time I eat monkey eggs. And then the angry mob picks up Howard. They're going to cut him apart. And Beverly's like, don't cook him. He's my boyfriend. And they're all like, what? That's fucking weird, bitch.
No, we're definitely going to cook him.
But she sicks Jeffrey Jones on them. And that works.
Great.
Then,
now, here's movie number 3. Now there's a plane for some goddamn reason.
Jeffrey Jones kidnaps Beverly into an 18-wheeler. They take off in one direction. And then all the cops come, and Tim Robbins had been arrested earlier, so he's in a cop car. So they bring him to this diner, and then Howard like helps him escape the cop car. It's kind of funny how he helps Tim Robbins escape, because Tim Robbins is like, "Can you get a brick and break the window?" And he's like, "I'm going to try opening the door," but meanwhile he's already crawled out of an open window. They find this glider, light aircraft thing. That I was trying to find out, what do you actually call this? I got the word.
Bike plane. It is a weekend hobby.
An ultralight glider is what it's called. So, and I wanted one of these when I was a kid so fucking bad. And
You'd shoot your eye out.
I still want one. Anything that flies, I just want to fly.
I mean, just if it lifted just a little bit, like just if you pedaled enough, it was your reward. I could get behind that.
That sounds nice.
Just like a little, did it. That's fine. But
what if we went outside and like our neighbor was just flying around above the trees?
Around. Yeah. Oh God. Flying cars. Someone brought this up earlier today. What a stupid fucking prediction that was. Like, we can't even get automated cars down, let alone flying ones. I was just thinking, we have no business up there. There'd have to be a little hole where you have to deposit your phone. It identifies it as your actual cell phone before it will let you in. Just saying. We don't need teens flying around.
Why do they have to be flying cars? Like, we have airplanes. Why don't they just have consumer grade airplanes for everybody? And then you have your answer for why there's no flying cars.
Wait, because they need to just lift, right? They can't. That's the whole thing. They need to hover. We don't have space for runways for fucking everybody.
No, I know, but they have airplanes that can go straight up, like military grade shit. Why don't we have that?
Those are expensive.
The answer is because it's expensive. We could if we wanted, but we don't. And it's bullshit.
There would be so much death.
There would.
Okay.
There's already a lot of death. That's what the whales are thinking when they hear about our world.
Then we're going to die off. We'll take care of ourselves.
You're driving around and what? While you're on your phones the whole time?
And you're driving? And you have hands?
What about your little legs?
Okay. Come on.
They fly around this little... They fly around in this little craft over these duck hunters on a marsh, and Howard shouts, Tora, 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 which, of course, was what the Japanese... their signal that the Pearl Harbor attack had initiated. And then he shouts, Banzai. Great.
So good. More
Japanese...
racism.
Humor. And
I don't know that it's Japanese humor. It sounds at them, not with them.
Yeah, Japanese-centric, where they are the subjects of jokes. So, as we said earlier, like, this is the worst part of the movie. Everything with the fucking glider, because it goes on for fucking ever.
Forever.
And I guess the idea is like, but he's a duck who can't fly, so now he needs to learn how to fly. It sucks.
It fucking sucks. I mean, the movie did not need to be 2 hours. It is a quick solve on this movie.
Fucking long.
Is cut it at least 30 minutes off of this thing.
Well, yes, that would help, but I just think that these are obvious names, but Robert Zemeckis or Tim Burton knows how to do a comedy like this.
Yeah. Especially
when it involves complicated technology and puppetry and visual effects. Right. It's really hard to do, but you really need to.
You know what it is? It's when someone first starts learning how to either use Photoshop or building a websites, and they really learn that you can add motion, you can add an animation to different parts of the website, or in Photoshop you can add this effect and a glow and an arc. It's like, it's not about knowing that you can do those things. It's about when. These embellishments are to punctuate a point you're making, or it's not the point. Like, you don't just do it because you can. You do it because it's enhancing your story.
Wow, this is neat. I can have my video autoplay on my website with the volume all the way up.
Right. It's exactly. All right. Add 10 treatments to this font. No one's got that now. Did we need it? No. All right. Now we're finally, fuck's sake, we're finally all in the same place again. The gang's back together. And I guess they're at the fucking place that has the laser.
Dynatechnics, the science place.
Sure.
They're initiating the laser.
And they are taking their sweet ass time once Filzy announces that there's a weapon that could maybe defeat this lasered electrode demon that we've never ever encountered. And I've also never seen this weapon work, but I've heard it exists. Here's a locked door at this like very secure place. Don't worry, the duck foo will come back and how our kick. So I'm saying they are not in a rush. It takes them forever. And she's just tied to the tracks.
Because there's like Jeffrey Jones says something about the overlords need your body as a vessel. Like they need a human body to, I don't know. It's not. No,
I understand why she's there. I just mean Phil and Howard are going to save her and they are taking forever. Then once they get the weapon into the place, they're not done. They need a random cart, a cart that's got many purposes, but they need a cart to put the gun on because the gun's real heavy, Matt. Luckily, here's the cart, and now we're going to teach Howard to drive it, and then we're going to have a scene where Phil flies off of it, and then now Howard doesn't know how to drive it, so then Phil teaches him how to drive it again, and now what is happening? So much for so long. Thing on top of thing on top of thing, and then they fucking find, like, I don't remember what wipes out the body, or like him, and dual lasers happen and it bursts the demon outside of Dr. Jennings.
Yeah. And then this
and knocks Howard back. Oh no.
Really cool Phil Tippett designed stop motion monster comes out.
That's when that happens, right? And it's like, did we need this part?
I mean, it looks good, but
get rid of 4 of the other parts.
Yes. Phil Tippett, who we last met on our Evolution episode, but I wrote, it looks cool, but at this point, who cares? I did realize, though, if this movie were successful, George Lucas would have gone back long ago and replaced it with a CGI monster.
Yeah, true.
We never meant it to look like that.
You don't. Okay.
And again, the movie really upped my appreciation for Beetlejuice with the escalating, with the pace, with the effects. Well, Howard defeats the monster with a laser. He points the laser at it and shoots it.
You already had the laser, my guy.
And he does that before it can erase Beverly and Phil. They're like being erased from existence. They're like, Howard, save us.
They're just turning into Tommy TV from fucking Willy Wonka. It's just every fucking little trick that they could pull out of their very sad 80s satchel.
Yeah, Marty McFly disappearing because he's being erased from the timeline.
That's at least interesting. That's at least like
no, I just mean in terms of what's literally happening to them.
Oh, okay.
They're just being erased. I mean, the movie should have done a better job at selling what these people mean to him. He's like, I have to save them because I love them. They mean, at first I wasn't so sure about humans, but now I know there are good ones and these ones I love them so much. Nope, just here we go, shoot you with a laser. And then they're like, oh my God, Howard, the portal is still open. More demons are going to come. He's like, oh, well, I'll close it. Oh, but if you close it, you won't be able to go back to Duck World. He's like, well, okay, then I'll stay on Earth.
All right. It was the morally right thing to do. He was choosing either him going maybe back to his planet over the annihilation of another planet. So
Sell me on the stakes of what that means to him.
At least he made the right call, and it wasn't something he needed a lot of time. You know, at least like he was a good duck at that point. I mean, I'm not saying he was ever a bad duck, but I was like, all right, glad you did this part fast. Everything else took forever.
In contrast to the Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes, when he has the opportunity to leave the Planet of the Apes at the end, he's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah, no,
he leaves as fast as he can.
And here's a baby for you, adult woman, and okay, bye.
They think Howard's dead at first. Oh no, Howard, you're dead. And then he opens his mouth and he does the demon voice.
Like, way to not get the moment, my man.
But he's just joking.
Why? Haven't we been through enough?
And the Cherry Bombs are playing this huge fucking sold out arena show. And they're singing,
sold out.
Howard, the duck.
But wait, didn't you know that first she had to say, this one goes out to my manager. Don't you think when you start singing about a duck, they'll know who that one goes out to? You're singing his theme song.
What's the problem?
She's like, okay, well, this next song I wrote, it goes out to my manager. It's like, we'll get that from context clues when your entire song is Howard the Duck.
If I have a song that was about you and I say, all right, this one goes out to my wife.
Lacey, my wife who has black hair, who also got a boob job. It is so specifically only about this
but
duck.
that tells everybody he's also my manager, because that's not in the text of the song.
Oh my God.
He's our manager.
You don't know that. You don't know the words of the song. It's probably, he manages us and now we're famous DuckTales.
Again,
Ooh.
she does a very poor job of playing the guitar.
No one cares.
And she really, really no-sells playing it with her teeth. Also, the drummer is playing this stand-up electric drum kit.
Maybe that was a thing for like a year.
Maybe. Also, Tim Robbins is now their backstage tech guy with a headset and a clipboard.
Or he just brought those things from home.
Just wants to feel included.
He seems like the guy that would bring things from home.
Yeah. And then Howard comes on stage and he shreds on guitar and Howard the Duck. And I just like feeling for these people who thought like this is the big celebration at the end of the movie for what's obviously going to be a giant hit, beloved movie franchise. That's it.
Oh, thank God.
What are your final thoughts,
I
Lacey?
gave this a 1-star review on Letterboxd.
Damn.
And I only didn't give it a 1/2 star because I do like Beverly and Howard's relationship most of the time, even though it gets buried after a while. I chuckled once or twice. I hate that I just said chuckled. I don't know. It's in the fucking review. Read it. I just fucking awful. And I'm sorry, Smash Trivia John. Please forgive me.
Well, all right. Put these movies in order. In terms of movies we've done recently that you hate.
All right.
Let's say Jingle All the Way, The Page Master, Evolution, Howard the Duck. What's the worst one of those?
Howard the Duck.
Ooh.
Page Master. Jingle All the Way, Evolution.
Evolution's the best?
Yep.
I give it 2 stars. I think that it functions as a movie. Like, it is not a disaster. It's just, there's nothing that good about it. There are jokes. There's like 10 really good jokes. You're always like, oh, that was pretty funny. You're like always surprised by it.
I think I'm giving it a lesser rating because of what they had that they squandered. If this is a B movie or this is a movie with lesser known people, with less of a budget, with less talent, and then it does this, fine, you fucking tried. You had some ideas. They fell flat. That's really not on you. This is fucking, you had 3 talented cooks in the kitchen who did not know how to communicate with each other. You had great actors. You made them look like idiots. You made them carry this legacy with you, the rest of their careers. Fuck y'all. I mean, I'm so glad you had a passion project, George Lucas, but you also have Star Wars and like other shit that's going to make you famous and a legend for the rest of your life. You're fucking around with other people's careers and you don't seem to care because everyone's just a little action figure toy to you. It's annoying. People aren't real people. They don't matter as much as his destiny. Is what it feels like. It seems like a rich guy with a playset.
But he's giving people jobs. He's letting his friends make a movie.
He could have ended careers. In fact, he did for that other woman. She never got to be a fucking director again.
No, she worked.
She worked.
She was not. She was a
respected?
producer.
Okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, she was a longtime producer and writer.
You don't
successful.
know.
Yes, I do.
I mean, you don't know what she had to overcome because of it. If Lea Thompson was so like distraught over not having to say what the movie ended up meaning to her before that lady died, then clearly Lea Thompson is acknowledging that like she probably had a hard time after this movie and overcame it.
Yes, I would not.
You know who
specifically
didn't
blame
have a
George
hard
Lucas
time?
on that.
Okay, but out of all of them, who had the least to lose?
I mean,
Or
even
who lost the least?
I'd say even above him, I'd say the studio executives, and are the ones, and also who said, well, make it like Ghostbusters and do it in 8 months. They're the ones I blame.
Fine, we can blame them too.
Less than George Lucas. I appreciate George Lucas's willingness to take chances and to give people opportunities and to produce movies and not even put his name on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's for his skin. But
Still,
fine.
I don't like this movie, but it's not the disaster that I'd always heard it is. I'm sure if you watch it a lot, you start to notice. This. I watched it the second time and noticed way more jokes that I liked. So maybe if I watched it a third time, I'd flat out like it. I'm not gonna do it.
That happened. It does happen. You can lily pad your way through this entire movie. There are cute things. These are talented people. And when you can get past the fact that, okay, Howard is never going to be appropriate. He's not going to ever respond appropriately or in a way that you expect. So just enjoy the way he does. I could see that.
Mm-hmm. So 2 stars for me. I mean, if you're curious, take a look.
And that is tricky criteria, right? Because I should add that. I'm glad I saw it. Mm-hmm. There's very few movies where I feel like I didn't need to. It didn't enrich me in any way, didn't inform me in any way. It was a big blind spot. It's a cultural touch point. I'm glad I consumed it.
Yeah, I never regret watching a movie even if I don't like the movie.
Right.
My threshold is 3 stars, so it's a whole star below recommend. I would never say watch it. It's good.
Right.
So coming up next week, what are we doing?
Planet of the Apes, Mark Wahlberg.
Tim Burton, much discussed in this episode, seemingly. Made a Planet of the Apes movie for question mark reasons. And our friend Cinematic Joshua is going to be talking about it with us. The new Planet of the Apes film is coming out, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie.
I will not be seeing it.
Directed by Wes Ball. Yeah, Lacey doesn't like the
Every
apes.
time the preview comes on, I say, no!
And when we attempted to watch Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, 5 minutes in, the apes are signing at each other with subtitles,
It's
and Lacey's
too sweet. I don't like that. Let's make it fun. Don't make me care.
See, you're saying that now. In real time, you're like, nope.
Right. No, because it was too real. I want them to be silly, dressed up things that I can be like, haha, things are happening now. Mm-hmm. But if you chimps are too childlike for me to not feel like I need to take care of them.
So it'd be like seeing some children be adults.
They're not ready.
For that reason, I actually prefer the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes to the new Planet of the Apes movies. But we'll get into that next week.
Yeah.
As for our podcast, people, we love you for listening and for watching. We ask for a review and for you to spread the word. Tell a friend.
Matt.
Yeah?
I want to get merch because I want to sweeten the pot. For every review, I'd like to have something I can send, like a button or something I can send to somebody. But I'd like t-shirts or something cooler. If someone does the trifecta, they tell a friend. No, I agree. They tell a friend, they leave a review, they follow us on TikTok. We need to give them 3 things to do and then they get a fucking shirt.
And if they want to give us money in exchange for said merch, we'd like that too.
We would also like that. Yes.
Yeah. Again, if you listen to the podcast, that's the best thing to do. But if you want to, you can watch it on YouTube, Load Bearing Beams Pod. Follow the show on Twitter at Load Bearing Pod. Follow me personally on Twitter, Matt Stokes9. Our Instagram is Load Bearing Beams. Our TikTok is load.bearing.beams.
It is the superior place to be.
Well, that's where
I'm there,
Lacey's
and I'm
there.
a delight.
A lot of activity. We go live sometimes. You can interact with us that way. I'm on Letterboxd at Matt Stokes9.
We should start a Discord, I think.
Lacey's on Letterboxd at
Load Bearing Lacey, not a cum joke.
And my band, Rural Route 9, does the music on the show.
Rural 9.
The theme music and all the interstitial music. And if you like what you hear, you can hear the complete songs on Spotify. Our album is called The Joy of Averages. Thank you very much.
Okay, I love you. Goodbye.
3, 4. Everybody, love bearing beams, 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 Spider-Man, love bearing